come to you from the Craftsman Real Estate Services headquarters today, and you can probably hear the weight of my head. It's approximately 1,000 pounds, but it is a great neck workout. So I'll take it. Today, I want to present to you some nerdy deep dives that I've been doing into a path and a question. And I'll give you the setup for the question and the background that makes this a very like soul and heart level wrestling for me. Is I have several friends, I have clients, colleagues in the real estate investing world that have very different ideas on how to structure a safe path towards wealth. And many people ascribe to the idea that debt is dumb, made popular through Dave Ramsey and some people after him. And truly, debt is dumb. Debt that is not a business debt, and specifically business debt, doesn't mean it's not dumb. But debt that has an intention that returns in a predictable, thought out way, and debt's consequences having been weighed and accepted, that can be smart debt. But many types of debt that we see on a day-to-day basis are in fact dumb. And so when you're thinking about how to use leverage in real estate as an investment vehicle, it is common that you'll see a group of people say that, hey, I just want to live a simple life. I just want to have a simple holding. So I'm going to have a few homes. I'm going to own them free and clear. And that is stability for us. And in fact, many people in certain stages of life, like specifically retirement, and retirement is a season specifically in which you draw down on savings and investments. So when you're in a drawdown period, I'll call it that instead of retirement, because that can come at different points in life. But when you're on a drawdown period, you might want these assets to be more conservative so that you have calculable things to draw down on. You might want some efficiencies that come through owning things free and clear. But how does it really play out to own real estate free and clear? And today I want to take you through a sample portfolio that is inspired by real life people and real life events, and walk you through why my preoccupation, my conviction in this is that you would be missing out to not use leverage wisely. Like, period. If you want to invest in real estate and you were to do so without using the benefits of the lever of leverage, then you would be missing out. And lest you think I'm speaking in hyperbole, we're going to flip this around. We're going to check out my screen, and I'm going to walk you through a really crude, really basic, but powerful concept-backed Google Sheets doc. You ready? Let's jump in. All right. So here we go. I'm going to show this in the stream. Flip these around. Yeah. Boom. And then we'll hide me. Yes. Here we go. We'll hide this. Yes, that's the orientation I want. Thanks for tuning in for that. All right. I'm going to zoom us in, so don't get distracted by all the craziness around here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, portfolio summary. This is a 4-property portfolio on Main Street of Anywhere, America. And their current values, so we're not going to look at the acquisition price, we're going to look at their current values. Current values are 120, 115, 125, and 160. They're owned free and clear, so there is no debt, which means that's 100% equity. So if that's 100% equity, then it's free and clear, right? So this is going to put a total equity position of $520,000. And the estimated monthly cash flow is $2,600. That's after paying management, taxes, and insurance, and setting aside for repairs and maintenance. So you're cash flowing $2,600 a month. And so annually, that's an income by itself, like just from these 4 properties, $31,200 a year. So not shabby at all. And you've got 4 properties. So 4 properties is little enough that if you had thoughts of self-managing, then you could self-manage 4 with little consequence. I would say it's not your best play,
but I'm a property manager. So of course I would. So that's what we're looking at. You're looking at $520,000 more or less in the current value, and it spits off $2,600 of cash flow every month. So man, that's amazing. If you were a person in the drawdown phase of your retirement or of your life, and maybe you're taking a gap year, maybe you're writing a book, who knows? But you need to draw down. You actually don't have to draw this down because the asset actually throws off cash flow. So if you can live off that $2,600 a month, or if this fits in your other investments and you can live off of what they totally throw off in terms of cash flow, then you can keep the goose and cash in the golden eggs. That's wonderful. Uh, Homes appreciate over time. That's one of the levers that of the four levers of real estate investing, is that they grow in value over time. So this package of 4 homes that's currently today worth $520,000 won't probably be worth $520,000 in the future. And a lot of people in my generation are thinking of properties along the Brandon Turner lines, and specifically when his kiddos were born, when his daughter was born, specifically he bought a fourplex, put it on a 15-year amortization or something like that. And the idea was this is going to be paid off when she is thinking about college. And so if this thing's paid off when she's thinking about college, then she or we will have options come college time that we wouldn't have otherwise. Like if you bought a $200,000 property and it became worth $300,000 and it was paid off in 15 years, then you've got $300,000 to play with college. And so that'll buy you a really good education probably in 15 years. But the concept is that homes become more valuable over time. So I'm going to use the standard appreciation rate of 2% that holds for the Oklahoma City market. This is not a national binding number. It varies widely across the country, but for Oklahoma City, the vast majority of decades of our past would conform to a 2% annual rate of inflation. So let's jump into that. Sorry, I've been looking at that one. I'm gonna let you know. So let's look at this. So in 15 years, this portfolio that was worth $520,000 is now worth $699,000. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. That is one of the most profound ways that real estate is an asset that's fantastic, is because it grows over time. Because and the real reason that happens is because we have more people alive than we used to, so there's more demand for the assets, and then our money becomes worth less because we left the gold standard and all that stuff. So so it's sufficient to say that real estate is a buoy that floats with inflation. So you're going to keep up with that 2% rate of inflation, and your $520,000 portfolio floated up 2% a year and became worth, we're going to call $700,000. And so that's not bad. And that's what you get when you hold a simple portfolio in cash, is these levers of real estate investing, they work for you. One of those being appreciation, another being cash flow. You're getting $2,600 a month. That is not shabby at all. And so I don't want to throw this under the bus and say that it's foolish, it's ill-advised. It's not. This is a good path. And for many people in certain stages of life, this might be the most prudent path. But unless you have spiritual exceptions to this, what could be a far better path that I want to illustrate is what happens if you take this same portfolio value now and look at, is leverage a power play or a power plow? It is a power plow. Or is debt dumb? So you take this same portfolio, $520,000, spinning off $2,600 in monthly cash flow, and you do a cash out refinance at 75% loan to value. So that's what you'd be looking at when you take assets that are currently rentals that you don't live in and you go and try to refinance them. You'll probably end up putting, well, there's 4, so you could do this at a local bank. You could do it with one of the large nationwide portfolio lenders. And for the sake of these calculations, I'm factoring in all the loans that you get to be a 25-year amortization at 4.5% interest. That's fairly readily achievable right now, and all at 75% loan to value. So if you did a cash out refinance on this portfolio, you would expect to take away $382,000 in cash. And let's say you're going to go purchase with that cash. You're going to do fresh purchases. So it's not a refinance. So they're not going to necessarily cap you at 75% loan to value, because you can go out, you're going to do the work, and you're going to find local banks and investment friendly lenders, and you're going to get up to 80% loan to value. But you're going to have some closing costs. So we're going to factor in 2% towards closing costs and 20% down payment. And so all of a sudden your $382,000 of cash becomes $1.7 million in total assets. So now here's where I want you to stick with me here. So now this is $1,302 in debt. Let me correct this right quick. This becomes, yeah. Now we've got this amount of debt, 382, because that's our cash out amount. So that is now a loan or liability. And then we've got the total acquisition value of 1.7 from this cash, but there's a loan tied to that at 75% of that amount. I'm sorry. Let's make it 77%, 78%. That's 2% down payment and 2% closing costs and 20% down payment. Okay, so all right, and then your equity is only, let's see, your equity is your debt minus your assets that you purchased. Oh yeah, that's the equity associated with this, and then you still have 137,800 in equity associated with this. So you got a total of $520,000 in equity. So your equity position didn't change much, didn't change at all, and you have a total of $2.25 million in assets, $1.7 million in debt, $520,000 in equity, for a total estimated monthly cash flow of $44,044. And again, I want to emphasize my assumptions are the same here both ways. I'm using the same metrics because I want to look at these level-headedly and side by side and say, what are we getting into? And you can't see that, so I'll move it over a little bit. Yeah, so $4,044 in monthly cash flow, and that's what we're looking at. So what I hope is clear already is that we went and we took a portfolio that throws off $2,600 in cash flow, and we turned that into $4,000 in cash flow. Still paying for property management, still paying our taxes and insurance and our principal and our interest, but simply by changing our positioning from going all cash to being leveraged at an average across the board of 76% loan to value. That's about 78% loan to value across the board. It's conservative enough, but liberal enough. It's considered safe. It is debt that returns. It's debt that covers itself. But where I want to point our attention now is what happens from today to 15 years from now. So I'm using 15 years because of that concept of, with our generation looking at our kids' college educations or whatever, like 15 years from now, are we going to have appendages removed, or will you have a sick, an aging parent or sibling that needs care? And the fact of the matter is that if you have the ability now to safeguard against something in the future, you ought to do it. If you know that the air will get more and more polluted in the future, and you have the ability to plant a tree or help support eco-friendly businesses now, and you know that it will have a positive impact on your own life and the life of others that you care about in the future, then the fiduciary idea would be you ought to do that. So when we're looking at a situation where, hey, in 15 years, would it benefit you and your family to have more assets? The answer is yes. It's not necessarily a universal answer, and Heather is very prudent to point out to me that my viewpoint is not the only viewpoint in the world. And so I suppose there are factors and situations where you would not want more assets in 15 years or more cash flow in 15 years. And if you're watching this and you know what some of those reasons are, would you let me know? I would love to know what reasons you can think of for wanting less asset and less cash flow in the future. I think that would be really interesting, and I'd love to learn from you here and to know that my way is not the right way. This is just a perspective, and so I want to present you with a take on this. So from the get-go, from today's vantage point, we took $520,000 of assets and turned it into $2.2 million in assets. We took $2,600 in cash flow and we turned it into $4,000 in cash flow. Both of these being farmed out to a property manager, and a good one, because you're going to choose a good management company run by good people doing good work and making good profit. So you're not going to go cheap. You're going to hire a good management company. You're going to pay them a good rate, and they're going to do good business, which is a good thing. Good things all around. That's what you're going to do. And they're going to take care of you, and they're going to treat it as well as they can. And you're going to have minimal headaches because they have been hired to take your headaches. So same thing both ways. You're looking at $2,600 turned into $4,000 a month. Let's look at what happens in the future. All right. We're going to take our assumptions and we're going to say asset purchase using 20% down. Okay, so what are our principal and interest payments? Principal and interest payments associated with this are $7,200, and found an error in my work. 1 second, let me correct this error. 2,000. All right, I'll have to factor that in later. So what is this worth in 15 years? By the same factors for future value that we calculated, that the previous all cash position is worth $700,000. What is this worth in 15 years? Well, it's worth $3,037,000 in 15 years. Now, it's not safe to say that you have $3 million more than you did before. That's not accurate. So we need to look at the difference in the future value and in the future value of this. So you would have had $700,000 in assets, but now you have $3 million. So that difference gives you a difference in equity or in total value of $2.3 million. But when you subtract out all your loan balances of $903,000, and that'd be from the loan here and the loan here, you got $903,000 of loan balance at year 15. And so when you take the total equity and you subtract out the loan balance, you get a total difference in equity. See that? So this is our future value, future equity. So we're going to call this future equity. Boom. And then the difference in that future equity, and then there we go. That future equity minus our other future equity. So what our future equity would be in the all cash position versus our future equity with the leverage position. It adds $1.4 million in additional equity. and there's cash flow increase along the way. I'm actually going to take that out because I think that I made a mistake in the cash flow calculations. So we're not gonna focus on that a whole lot. Thanks for ignoring my errors. So what this means is that what we're looking at is we go from a cash flow now leverage that's higher than the current cash flow, but we go for a total increase in equity of $1.4 million. And that is the thing that blows my mind. That is the part about it that says to me, dude, what on earth other thing could I do that would take some money now and make it so much more later, and then along the way have tax advantages because all of that debt that you had along the way, all of the interest payments are tax deductible, and then the property management fees are tax deductible, the repairs are tax deductible, tax favored, the improvements you do to the house are tax advantaged. They're capital expenditures, so they're not. It's not taxed the same way as a repair is, but it has a lifespan that it's amortized over. So all of these other advantages of real estate investing can come into play here and can stretch those advantages further. But the biggest difference is you go from $700,000 of real estate to 3.0 million. That's a $1.4 million difference. And as I think about the future, as I think about what is true, would it be strategic and beneficial to have 1.4 million more dollars in 20 years from now, 15 years from now? The answer is yes. In 2036, oh, that's funny. That's the end of my life insurance policy. In 2036, I can guarantee you it will not be a disadvantage. It doesn't seem like, I can't guarantee anything. It doesn't seem like it would be a disadvantage in 2036 to have 1.4 million more dollars. And if things go well along the way, if you're working with a savvy agent, savvy property management team, if you make some strategic adjustments along the way, let's say you raise rents along the way, you buy things that are going to be low maintenance, or you buy things that are horrible and you renovate them so that they will be low maintenance, and perhaps along the way you can beat these returns, and possibly you have a much better cash flow. But even if you don't have that cash flow, for those of us now who are in that same demographic of we're thinking about our kids when they're graduating high school, the nature of it is we're in the work phase, and let's not despise work. Work's not the problem. Work is in itself good or amoral. It is not the problem. The way we do work is largely broken, and the things about work can be very draining and cantankerous. But if you're in your 30s or 40s right now, let's put our hand to the plow and let's work with diligence and not try to withdraw from that. And so in light of that, let's build our lives so that the cash flow, even if it was cash flow negative, would I pay $1,000 a month now to have, let's see, $1,000 a month now in 15 years would be $180,000. So would I pay $180,000 to have 1.4 million more dollars? Yeah. That's right. That's nearly a 10x multiple in 15 years. I would pay that. Would I pay that to have tax advantages along the way? Yeah. And what I can tell you is that what also happens is that, let's take our portfolio that we looked at just a moment ago, which hopefully you don't see right now. Yeah, you don't see. So if we take that portfolio, let's go back here. All right.
So we're going to take this portfolio, and we are somewhere along the path between worth 2.27, 2.257, and 3. That's at the 15-year path. So let's just say right here, we're going to take this and we're going to add half of the difference. 5 times. This might not work. This might not work. I think I did my booty operators wrong. All right, let's do this. Let's take this equity gain and slice it into half and say in 10 years, you're taking this equity increase or this appreciation increase. So your new value is 2.6. But what happens more often, and we can't bank on this, we can't predict this, but what I would tell you is likely to happen in that 15-year slide is we're probably going to see some recessions. We're probably going to see some dips and some down cycles where things aren't always up and to the right, where the S&P 500 doesn't go up 21% a year because of pure BS or because of solid financials, because that's not how markets work. Markets are cyclical. They are rhythmic. They are not always up and to the right. So what is likely to happen is in this 15-year span or 30-year span or 50-year, how long you own real estate, you're probably going to see ups. You're going to see downs. And so if you have the opportunity in a up to pull out more cash because your property is worth more, which is typically tied to the accessibility and the cheapness of debt. And so you take advantage of that and you pull more out, and then it goes lower because it tends to be cyclical, and you find fresh buying opportunities when it's lower, and then the market cycles back up and you raise your rents or you have appraisals done and you do another cash out refinance. That's how it tends to work. It's not something that's guaranteed. It's not something you want to force a deal because, hey, in the future, I bet this happens, because everything about our financial system is changing in front of our eyes. But what I would tell you is that if you have the opportunity to make $1 million for yourself 15 years from now, and if you did this calculation over 30 years, it will blow your mind. Do it. I think 60, 70, 80, 90-year-old you will be very glad to have the additional resources when our joints are failing, when our families are aging, when our kids are grown, when their kids are young. The ability to make decisions from a point of, I have what I need, is a beautiful thing. And so ultimately, if you know much about me, hopefully you know that I don't think that I'm the one that provides every need of mine. I have a kind and generous Father in heaven who does that. And in part of doing that, I know that he puts things in my field and he says, go work the field. And we want to be as prudent as possible in planting and sowing. And when we do that, in time, we will reap, we will harvest, but we will harvest in proportion to what we sow. And so when I look at things like this, what I want to put in front of you is a Godward vision of not more, better, faster, but in light of what we have and we have access to, is there a way that we can be more prudent as stewards? Is there a way that we can think generationally about our family? And I don't mean just our nuclear families, but I mean like the family that Jesus talks about. Who are my mothers and who are my brothers? But those who do the will of the one who sent me. And so how can we be more generous, more fruitful? How can we flourish more in all of the 5 capitals, and definitely in the financial capital? And so that's my aim here is to get at the root of this. Like, how can we flourish in all ways, and especially in this example, in the financial way? Let's do it. Let's go turn what we have into more in the future through some smart stewarding. Thanks for tuning in.
And I'd love to hear what you think. If this is something you're interested in seeing in more granular detail applied to you, we're here for that. If you would like to talk about how to make a plan to start investing in real estate or how to position yourself to invest in real estate in the future, let's talk about that. If you currently own a lot of real estate and it makes your head spin, or if you've got a property manager that sits on their laurels and isn't doing a good job, we'd love to interview for that job. And if you would love to share with me why you don't want another $1.4 million in the future, I would love to talk about that and to understand your vantage point. It's fascinating. And when we only think through the lens that we can see, then we miss the beautiful parts of life that we can't see naturally. So lend me your lens. Be well. And until next time, Craftsman out.